too late, way too late, born too late to be a punk. Born too late, way too late, born too late for that outro, that outro.
Hello and welcome to the Born Too Late podcast. This is Josh Rutledge. I'm here with Jay Castro and our good friend Travis
Hey,
has joined us for a special celebration of the state of Pennsylvania. I know I'm supposed to call it the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, but there's a lot of misinformation about Commonwealths, and there is no difference between a Commonwealth and a state. So we're just
but it sounds more astute.
It does sound more astute. Apparently, it had to do with Commonwealths were more anti-monarch
Mm-hmm.
to express their disdain for monarchy, and Pennsylvania was on that train, as you would expect from the birthplace of America. But we were going to talk tonight about our favorite bands and recording artists from Pennsylvania. And we're finally going to get Travis's list of favorite Pennsylvania snacks and foods, which we were supposed to do years ago, and we just ran out of time.
I will say this: when I was there in the summer, when we scheduled this back in the summer, and I brought home a bunch of snack foods for this, and of course they didn't last. Because I was like, oh, I'm gonna bust them out and like have some while we're talking about it, but no, didn't work out that way.
Yeah, I was actually going to have a bag of Middlesworth kettle cooked barbecue chips, and unfortunately I just couldn't get past last night with them. I had to eat. So no props for this program, which will not bother anyone since they can't see it anyway.
That's like they could have heard the crunch.
They could have heard the crunch.
Yeah.
I could have actually eaten them on air. Here's what a Middlesworth chip sounds like.
Here's the crunch difference between the kettle and the regular. That's good. I'm just wondering if I'll slide into a little accent while I'm on air. I could. You never know.
It is certainly possible.
Well, if I would have known about pasnacks.com, I for sure would have ordered myself quite a few of these things.
It's never too late.
Oh, yeah. I'm going
I think you should click and ship right now while we're doing it. We'll hear you like ordering while we're talking.
The Millsworth gift basket. It's looking pretty delicious. The soft pretzels. Well, anyway, we'll get to the food later. But I'm keeping this website up.
Good inspiration.
So we are going to go counting them down like we're Casey Kasem here, from 5 down to 1. Our absolute all-time favorite recording artists from the state of Pennsylvania of any genre of music. We're not putting any limitations on it.
Yeah.
So how did your research go, Jay? Are you going to be able to give us 5?
We should preface that Jay is not a Pennsylvanian.
No, Jay is not a Pennsylvanian.
And I don't know if he's even ever stepped within the border of the Commonwealth.
I have not.
I don't even know if he's ever been inside of a township.
No. No. A lot of these, like Wikipedia has like recording artists from Pennsylvania, but it just lists like the biggest ones. And I know there's other bands that I'm sure we all listen to that are from there. I have no idea. But before we get into this, I want to ask you guys, does Pennsylvania have a Bruce Springsteen type of musical hero of the state?
Yes.
Who is that?
Well, he's on my list.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, we'll get to it. Because here in Arizona, it's Alice Cooper.
Yeah,
Arizona freaking loves Alice Cooper.
but only because he moved there.
Yeah. Yeah. He's not he wasn't born here, but the dude is always around. In fact, when I worked at Toys R Us when I was in high school, he came in and asked me where the remote control cars were.
Wow.
And I pointed it to him and he goes, well, and he was super nice. He was like, well, it's like, would you mind showing me where they are? Because I have some questions. And I'm like, sure, Mr. Cooper. And so I took him over to the remote control car aisle, and he was like, so he goes, well, which ones are the best? Which ones sell the most? You know, and so I pointed a few out and he got them and he said thank you, and he was really nice. He was
But
like a regular dude.
Did you say, welcome to my toy store?
No, I didn't ask him any cool things. I didn't ask him what was it like to hang out with like Keith Moon or Frank Zappa or, you know, anything like that. I'm just like, oh, okay, Mr. Cooper, have a nice day.
But you didn't go deep about remote RC cars, did you?
No, I didn't go. I didn't want to like piss him off or, you know, like I didn't want him to roll his eyes and be like,
You guys get
whatever.
a
jerk.
huge argument about remote control cars.
But you met the Bruce Springsteen of Arizona.
I did.
I have a good Alice Cooper, Pennsylvania crossover.
Oh yeah?
When he played in Williamsport around 2003 or so. I guess when he goes on tour, he likes to take a couple of days at each place and like play golf and then do the concert and then do other stuff. So he's not just on a constant tour.
Oh, that's cool.
I had tickets for the show, but this was like during the day of it. And I'm just driving home from work, and on the radio, I hear, oh, Alice Cooper and his crew are challenging our local radio station staff to a game of softball over at Brucey Henry Park. I was like, what? So I like stepped on the gas. I went home. I grabbed my Killers 8-track tape, went down to the field, and sure enough, they were just in no crowd hardly at all. Alice Cooper's crew against the radio station. They all had jerseys. The name of their team was the Nightmares, and they all had number 18 on the back. And he was just playing left field. He just standing out there.
That's awesome.
And then after the game, like he was hung out on the pitcher's mound, and people could go out and meet him. And he signed my 8-track, and he was like, "Well, how the heck are you going to even listen to this thing?" It's an artifact. It's just for you to sign.
Don't you worry about it, Mr. Cooper.
Yeah, that was a little Pennsylvania connection there for Alice Cooper.
Nice. So, okay, so let me ask you guys this. What about, like, is there a movie like that Pennsylvania is famous for? Like that everybody talks about? What's that?
Well, Night of the Living Dead, of course, filmed just north of Pittsburgh. Well, all of those, because George Romero, Tom Savini, those guys are from Pittsburgh.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
awesome.
And in modern times, I guess I'm not too stoked on him, but M. Night Shyamalan, he's from Philly area. He made all, the Sixth Sense and all those.
Yeah,
probably the biggest ones. Josh, what are you thinking, movie wise? Those are probably the biggest ones. And what I like,
Yeah. I mean, obviously, there's certainly have been movies shot in Philadelphia and featured in Philadelphia. I mean, classics such as Mannequin.
Well, no, I have to go back. The biggest movie from Pennsylvania has to be Rocky, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah. I mean, that won the Oscar.
That is definitely probably in my top 3 movies of all time.
Yeah.
I was thinking first movie I think about
what about
Philadelphia? Invincible.
You know that one.
That's a good one too.
I know you know it. Mark Wahlberg plays remind me his name?
Vince Papale.
Vince Papale, who was just a guy in Philadelphia who tried out for the Eagles just on an open call and made it.
Oh.
Um,
No, I don't remember that for some reason.
yeah, Greg Kinnear plays
Hmm.
Dick Vermeil.
Yeah.
Sports fans. But it's
Nope.
funny that Marky Mark's probably like 5'3", and of course Vince Papale is like this 6'4" monster, of course, to make it in the NFL.
The movie I always think about is Trading Places
Yes.
with
Oh yeah,
Dan Aykroyd.
yeah. I
and Margot.
mean, big locations for sure to shoot there.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's ones we're forgetting, but those are the biggest ones that come to mind. Those horror movies, and of course Rocky and sports movies. I think Adam Sandler made a Philly sport movie just a couple years ago.
Yeah, that's right. That basketball movie he
Yeah.
made.
Oh,
Which is good.
cool. Well, yeah. If you guys want to talk about the recording artists from Pennsylvania, but yeah, Wikipedia just was kind of lame. So I want to see what you guys have, and then I'll kind of
Okay.
go through what I found.
Josh, I'll let you go first since you have the hometown advantage right now.
Right.
I just don't want to hear a bunch of stuff about live, okay? Or live or live.
That was the funny part is my wife's like, well, what about Live and Taylor Swift? And I said, Taylor Swift will be an honorable mention. Live, I hope they are not mentioned at all. But now Live has been mentioned. And again, I don't want to say too many bad things about Live, because if I do,
Because
there are
one of the guys is your neighbor.
people connected to Live, like they could see me shopping at Giant and come after me.
Your
You have to
house.
just wear a hat and sunglasses everywhere.
Your place is
Oh, there's that
toilet
guy that said
paper.
we suck.
Born Too Late sucks. Live rules.
So, okay, I'm gonna start
With live.
definitely not with Live. I'm gonna start in Philadelphia, with the Hooters.
Woo-hoo.
Band formed in 1980. If you grew up in central Pennsylvania or southeastern Pennsylvania in the mid 80s and listened to the rock radio, the Hooters were kind of inescapable. Started out as just a big band on the Philly scene, and then became like this big sort of regional AOR band, and then they got the major label deal, and were kind of cool to me because they were kind of like, okay, this is classic rock meets new wave meets pop.
Did you know of the Hooters before the hit regionally?
Yeah, because before they went big, they were played on the local AOR station when their first indie album came out. So they were darlings of the local radio, being from Philadelphia.
Do you remember what their biggest claim to fame was? Bigger than their hit?
Definitely was the fact that two of them played on She's So Unusual.
That's a good one. But
Cyndi
there's even
Lauper
a bigger one that's more historically known.
Really?
Yeah.
What would that be?
I believe that they played on the Berlin Wall when it was being torn down.
Really? The Hooters?
Wow.
When they had people could go over there, and there was like a festival. It's an MTV broadcasted, and it was just happened to be that song was the hottest song in the nation at the time. So they went over there and did that. It was like played and we danced and the toppling of the Berlin Wall. That's the historical song.
The Cold War is ending.
Yeah.
You've got
Call in the
Hasselhoff
Hooters.
I remember when that song came out. That was a great song.
Oh yeah, and we danced. Day by Day. They had some great tunes.
I remember the video was like them playing at like a drive-in theater or something like that.
That's exactly what that video was.
Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. And the thing about the Hooters was, just like so many bands that were like really good in the mid 80s, then you of course have to make another album. And now you've got assholes from record labels telling you that you have to make a hit, and then you get away from like making the kind of music that you were making. And so, yeah, they struggled a little bit maybe after Nervous Night, which was their major label debut. And
I
but
mean, bands like that didn't really stand a chance in that time period. You know what I mean? It's just
yeah,
like things changing so fast, and then like, what's the next different thing? And of course, what was the hottest thing was hair metal
oh yeah,
at that time.
Yeah.
So it was like, then the good old boy power pop of Bryan Adams and that kind of fun stuff was just like kind of waning. They probably fell victim to that.
yeah. And it's like they kind of kept plugging away and put out like a really like solid album just last year. So I think once all the smoke clears on what you're supposed to be doing and trying to fit in with the trends, you can just
But
go back to being the Hooters. And they kind of went back to a little bit to, because when they started out, they had like a lot of reggae in their sound, and they kind of went back to that, but in like a very cool way.
and they predate the restaurant, I believe, right? The Boob restaurant.
I think they would have probably did, at least in the beginning, like when they first formed in 1980. It's probably close. We might have to look that up and see. But I doubt that the restaurant would have been a regional or national thing.
There was no cease and desist going on.
No, I think they probably would have won that.
I wonder if they ever went and played at the Hooters.
You know, what a wonderful opportunity that would have been.
I know this, and
Win-win.
up on Route 220 in Pennsylvania, headed to State College from Williamsport, there was a bar called Hooters that was just a roadside bar
Wow.
before the Boob restaurant came out. And then the Boob restaurant came out, and I was like, wow, did that start from that little roadside bar? I doubt it, but
So
that's the story of the Hooters.
the Hooters, and famously they played at one of the most important concerts in the history of rock music, Live Aid, on the home field.
Veterans Stadium.
Yeah, I think that was at JFK?
Oh, is it JFK?
Yeah.
Nice.
So that's my number 5.
5. Okay. Hooray for the Hooters. And those guys could probably play anywhere in the whole state of Pennsylvania and it would be packed. Even that it's like 30 years after a giant hit,
Absolutely.
That's just the way it goes.
Well, so they remain like hometown heroes, huh?
Yeah, they're still,
Really?
especially in Philadelphia. Like, if they're playing out in Philly, they're gonna have a good crowd because all their fans are my age now or a little older, and gonna still want to hear the hits from 1984.
Wow, And We Danced is not 84 though, right? Is it really 84?
Maybe
Wow.
85.
The keyboard sound,
wow,
the
it's
keyboard
old.
sound in that song makes me think 85.
Yeah,
I can look it up real quick.
yeah. I think Nervous Night came out in 85.
But also back then too, a hit lasted for years. Now it lasts like a couple of days on the internet.
Right.
And so yeah, that probably went for a couple years on the whole top 40 chart.
Yeah, 85.
Excellent.
I know my keyboard plug-in sound.
Yes.
That's
Mhm.
so 85. Cool. Are we moving on?
We are moving on.
Sorry, I didn't take that cue.
You are now up, Travis.
I had such a tough time with number 5. So I have a tie already, but there's no other
Okay.
ties. Okay, I have a tie, and I went underground for number 5, tying with a band that we released on our record label from Philadelphia called the Tough Shits. They were a garage rockin' band from, I guess, the decade called the O's. the 2000s. They lasted a little bit past that, but Ramo Records, we did a single with them, and then they ended up having a full album on Burger Records, and they're just a really cool band. They're kind of genre-less. They're kind of garage punk, but they have, pop appeal and punk appeal, and they're just like, cool dudes. That was my tie with one closer to Josh's area, the Stiletto Boys, which were an amazing punk band in the 1977 style, but a little more hyper. And they put out a single called 8-Track that was so great.
Oh my god!
That's just a standalone epic. If that was the only thing they ever made, I would still have them on my list for just this one song.
Yeah, I have that 7-inch.
Yeah, and I actually discovered it and got it from a fellow Williamsport, Pennsylvanian, Martin McMartin, who used to write for Flipside magazine. And we went out to visit him in LA, and it was kind of a time where he was, because he would get all that stuff for free. People would send him all the records and everything. And I found it in his stuff, and he was like, "Oh yeah, I have 2 of those. You can go ahead and take it."
Wow.
Because people would send it to him. This was, back in the days. And so I took that home and just played it over and 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 over again. And it's one of those, it is, like I said, it's one of those songs that if it was their only song, it would stand up to other bands' whole catalogs. And they went on to re-record it on an album called, hold on, I have visual aids.
All right.
Rockets
and Bombs.
Their debut, yep. And they even pictured their own single.
Oh yeah.
The front. Just that you remembered it. And I think those guys, if someone would have, I'm not a huge fan of all things Epitaph Records, but I feel like those guys could have been on Epitaph Records and been huge with like the Warped Tour and the California kids and skateboard culture and all that. And it didn't happen for them, but I feel like it could have, definitely they could have broken through.
What label put out that LP?
We'll tell you. Oh, a foreign label, High Society International, out of Rostock, Germany.
Yes, that was the vinyl on that was an import.
I don't remember that label at all.
That was a pretty cool label. Later 90s.
They had a couple more. They had one called Company of Wolves.
That was their second album.
Follow up.
Also called Buzz Bomb Sounds, depending on which
right.
version you had. And
yeah.
Palado
Buzz
Records
Bomb Sounds,
did one of them. Yeah.
But yeah, they ended up having a tragic ending. The singer took his own life, which actually makes it really hard to go back and listen to those albums because there's so much material that is about that.
Yeah.
That he's singing. You know what I mean? So I'll pick up the album to listen to, and I'll just start reading the song titles, and I'll be like, I can't listen to those songs knowing that.
Wow.
Yeah, Company of Wolves, there's songs on there that are really intense lyrically.
So did you know that then?
The song titles, but it's like they're all depressing songs content.
Did you, when you were listening to it at first, were you putting that together? You kind of like, damn, these songs are intense. Or was it after that happened that you kind of went back and
just like young 20s, all young 20s dudes can like come up with songs like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're depressed. But like, I never actually met any of these guys. I know some of the other Gun Fury guys knew them. But so I didn't really know. I mean, I just had like the only visuals like these guys on the back record cover, you know? So it's kind of like, oh, that's, you know, singing about suicide is like a punk thing in a way, not to dumb it down, but like, you know, lots of people write about that kind of stuff, but not knowing them, you don't know that how true and deep it actually is.
Yeah.
And that was a long time,
Yeah.
before, you know, uh,
I mean, I'm guessing he wrote those lyrics. He was the singer, Sean Wolf.
yeah, because I know he was working on that album with a Company of Wolves back, sort of around the year 2000 when that came out. So 99, they were writing
Hmm.
that record. And
I'd also like to point out on the back of this record cover, special thanks to Josh Rutledge and Now Wave Magazine.
wow, about that.
Nice.
Going back all the way there.
Accolades.
Yeah. So those are my two underground number 5s. I had to tie them because I like them both, but for different reasons. They're a little bit different. Stiletto Boys are like a high energy melodic punk band, and they do give the PA homesickness sound.
Oh, they were so good. And
I didn't. They didn't come to be until after I moved away. So it was like, oh wow, cool.
yeah, for a band to come out of Lancaster
Mm-hmm.
and be that good, and you get that international recognition. And
Yeah, because they had other records on foreign labels too, like Screaming Apple, for instance.
yeah, the 7-inch on Screaming Apple, and then they did that. Their third album was called Liberator,
Mm-hmm.
and it was great. And for whatever reason, people slept on that one.
Time
Maybe
for a
'cause
box set.
it took so long, I guess, to come out.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, they were fantastic. All the
Yeah, and I don't know if any of the other guys went on to play in future bands. I know that must have been a devastating thing to lose your friend and lead singer, that you wouldn't want to go back to that scenario. But I'm not sure if you guys know if they did anything after.
I don't know.
Well, I know that Casey was also in Brown Bones, who are
Oh,
another
yeah. I
great
guess-
band from Lancaster, who actually have a new album coming out very soon.
Brom Bones. Sorry, Brom Bones. You're a little bit further down the list. Maybe on the extended list.
Awesome band too. As far as Benner and Garvin, yeah, I don't know if they've done anything else in recent years.
Jay, do you have an honorable mention on number 5, Vicarious?
Well, I wanted that band Tough Shits sounded really familiar, and I did review a 7-inch of theirs that Oops Baby put out in like 2016.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, that sounds so familiar, and I'm looking at the covers. I'm like, okay, yeah, but I don't remember.
And what do you
it sounds
see?
like. It's like the cover just says Tough Shits in big black letters, and it's got like a cemetery with like these ghosts, coming out.
Yeah,
Mhm.
That's a good one.
I don't remember it all, but I'm scrolling through their
They're
discography on Discogs, and
they're such Pennsylvania dudes.
are they?
Yeah, good at big accents, Philly accents, and they don't. That's part of their appeal to me too, is that they were just very reminiscent kind of guys, and not nailed down into a certain kind of genre with their garage punkness.
Nice.
Yeah, Pennsylvania's pretty wild for the variety of accents we have in Pennsylvania. Because you got the Philly accent, you got the Yenzers in Pittsburgh, completely different, and you've got like mine, the Central Pennsylvania accent.
And then up towards the New York border too, it starts getting like New Englandish.
Yeah.
Mm.
And even Baltimore can sneak in there a little bit.
We have a lot of, like I feel like the Central Pennsylvania accent, I feel like mine is like a hybrid of Baltimore and Philadelphia.
Just you and the live guys.
I mean,
Sorry, I said it again. When you guys edit this, you have to bleep out every time we say live.
So I guess if I were to choose a number 5, according to Wikipedia, that band the Rave Ups is from Pennsylvania. And I remember the Rave Ups because they were in Pretty in Pink.
Yeah.
They did that song Positively Lost Me, which is a cool song. And I remember the record a little, but I don't remember it sucking, but it's a cool song. So
Rave Ups it is.
So they were
Cue-
also Yinzers from Pittsburgh.
That's right, Josh. You're up. Number 4.
Okay, number 4. I'm gonna keep it on the underground level here. This is a friend of our program, the Alec Baldwin of Born Too Late, Kevin McGovern,
Yes.
his band The Prostitutes,
All right.
from Harrisburg. What formed 1995. First single came out in 1996. And honestly, if I'm talking about like reminiscing about 90s punk rock and thinking about the stuff that holds up the most, it's hard to get better than like The Prostitutes, their first few singles, and then of course the incredible LP that was on Plato Records, Can't Teach Kids Responsibility. What an amazing frontman Kevin was.
Is.
Still is.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about the 90s here, but obviously he's still going strong. And even after the original version of The Prostitutes broke up, he kind of was able to reassemble the band in many different places with many different people. And
Yeah.
it was always good. It's continued to be great. And I guess he's back in Pennsylvania now, so we can officially say that The Prostitutes are again a Pennsylvania band.
That's right. And shout out to Mainliner too on this number too. The previous band that led into Prostitutes. When I was home back this summer, I was at my buddy's record shop in Williamsport, and he was like, I walked by it and I was like, whoa. And he says, "Oh, you can have that." He didn't really know exactly what it was, and I was like, "Oh no, it's great, yeah." And it is, that record is one of the greatest like punk records ever, the Mainliner one. And so 2 guys from Mainliner went on to do The Prostitutes. Brian Shuey on bass, I think, went on, and 2 guys from another Harrisburg band called the Tuners. Do you remember the Tuners?
Yeah.
So I think that's correct in saying that the Tuners and Mainliner made up the original Prostitutes.
That was kind of the primordial ooze from which for The Prostitutes were birthed.
We played a couple basements with those guys in Gun Fury in the Pants, which is great to see like other punk people playing in bands that are like way better than yours. When you're like, wow, these guys have got it. These guys can really play. Like those bands we mentioned, and Aliens and Strangers, also from Harrisburg, were just like, whoa, we thought we were okay, but these guys are great.
Yeah, there's some great like Central Pennsylvania bands in that era.
And Prostitutes, big discography too.
Yeah, it's incredible to think about like how much music Kevin has put out like over what now, many years.
60 years.
Closing in on 3 decades of The Prostitutes and still making music.
Nice.
I'm sure he'll be on our show again very soon to keep his lead over anyone else that could become the new Alec Baldwin of the program. Like you are now pushing him. So we're gonna
well, I guess I lied. I have a slash here on number 4.
Okay.
It's too hard, but these bands have a crossover member. So I selected from my exact hometown, Captain Nines and the Knickerbocker Trio / the Dummies.
Oh yeah.
Which shared a member of being Chris Subarton, who had 007 records as well. and he produced the Dummies, and he was the one of two bass players for Captain Nines and the Knickerbocker Trio, who were maybe our town's actual first punk band. Because everything's like pretty late when you get out in the sticks there. Like we didn't get E.T. in the theaters until like 87. No, I'm just kidding. But Captain Nines and the Knickerbocker Trio, Visual Aid, single.
Wow.
Sorry, podcasters. That was just for the co-hosts here. They were a band. They started out as a duo, I believe. Two guys, Tom Hutchison and Lee Ash, who actually was the record store owner who gave me the mainliner 45 tie-in. And they were kind of like, even though they started after punk and new wave, they were almost like a proto-punk band because they just started from nothing and in the middle of nowhere in Pennsylvania. So they were almost like a band like the Gizmos or something like that, kind of like a humorous Mad Magazine based punk band, and they played like You Ain't Nothing But a Gorehound by the Cramps and No Fun and stuff like that, and they had like an amazing sense of humor on their original material, which is mostly what they have. Songs like Rock and Roll Paper Route, Give Me Back My Hammer, because he's gonna smash everything, and I Think I Want to Be is a great song where he names all these occupations and why he wants to be them so that he can harm you or get away from you. Sophie's Tiki Lounge was another great one, another single, which is just about an actual roadside strip club in the area, and each verse is about some crazy stripper and her personality that I think he created out of his mind. But just a really funny band, and super unique and humorous and kind of ahead of the curve on the lo-fi garage thing that came out of like the Bay Area later. And a great moment was the younger brother of Chris Subarton, Darren Subarton, one day during high school, it was almost like something out of That Thing You Do or a movie like that. He brought in a big stack of these 45s and he gave them out at the lunch table at the cafeteria.
Wow.
He was like, "Hey, my brother's band put out this record," and we like all got him like at lunch period up in the cafeteria, like, "Oh wow, cool." And those guys would play at like sub shops, and they would play like in Williamsport in downtown. There was like a street that was blocked off, and it was all brick, like a kind of a shopping street, and they had a little stage there, and they would do stuff like they would go there at like 5 a.m. with all their gear and plug in and play like 3 songs super loud and just take off before anyone would come and bust them, like in the middle of downtown. They would play like AA meetings at the YMCA and just like funny, weird gigs.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. And they went on to get a little bit well known when Rip Off Records put out a comp of their stuff. Like they had old cassette tapes, like personally homemade cassette tapes and stuff. And I think I have it here. This one right here.
Yeah.
Total Basement Rock.
Scum of the Earth.
Scum of the Earth was the cassette tape. Yeah, it was that came out before that we all had. And yeah, that's a pick for me. Great stuff. And I kind of like, they kind of were doing the rip-off thing before rip-off. I think that was the attraction to them getting
interesting
on. Tom, the singer guitarist from Captain Nines, he actually moved out to Stockton, California, and he resided there and had a band called the Knockoffs that I think played with a lot of those guys. And I know that I'm pretty sure that Greg Lowry wanted to get the Dummies on to rip off as well, but I'm not sure what happened. Egos.
Yeah, they would have been awesome on
They would.
Ripoff.
Yeah, they kind of dropped the ball. I mean, this album of theirs is on Get Hip, which was good because it's closer to home. But they had trouble getting that record out and getting it mixed and agreeing and stuff. And I don't think they. I mean, obviously, you don't have you can tell the future of what Ripoff would have become, was going to become in 19 whatever, when they were making this album. Or maybe Ripoff wanted to do the next album, and who knows. But the Dummies are my tie, and they're from Williamsport too, and I watched them form, and we're good friends with them, and they went on to have a bunch of singles on labels like Empty Records and Bag of Hammers. Josh, you guys remember?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Empty and Get Hip, but really they just played in the region. They didn't really bust out, but they had a great fuzz rock kind of stuff. And yeah, that's my share with Captain Nines is the Dummies.
Beautiful.
Nice.
I got to play guitar once in the Dummies. I always wanted to be in the Dummies, but I could never make it in. But at a party, I stepped in once. But from Gun Fury also played guitar in the Dummies. Not on any recorded material though, but he was a official band member.
And you were in Gun Fury.
And I was in Gun Fury. One of these days, I want to make a big tree of all the groups and whatever everyone.
You really should do that, man.
That would be
awesome.
amazing.
Like there's like that famous artist that does them, like on the inside of Light of the End of the Tunnel by the Damned, how it shows all those guys' bands. You know what I mean? It's got like the trees that come down and who went in this band.
Well, I know somebody said that.
Or like the Liars have one too.
Who was it that the Adolescents have that?
Yeah, I bet they have that one. The same artist who does the same like lettering.
Yeah,
because we could do like a 7 Degrees of Travis game, and you could probably connect everyone to Travis.
I've been working hard on my 6 Degrees of Separation.
Yeah.
It's getting pretty good. I haven't made it to like the Rolling Stones or anything.
Have you made it to Taylor Swift though?
I can make it to Taylor Swift.
Really?
Not musically, but her dad went to my high school. I mean, like we weren't in high school together.
Yeah,
like 25 years before.
Alum.
Yes. So that is, I guess that's a degree of separation, but
yeah, absolutely.
never played music with anyone who played music with Taylor Swift yet, as far as I know.
So you got a number 4, Jay?
Well, so again, according to my lazy research on Wikipedia, I saw Bill Haley and the Comets were from Pennsylvania.
There you go.
My number 3.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I want to say that may have been my introduction to like 50s rock and roll, was when they did the theme from Happy Days for a little bit. And it wasn't the theme, but they played their song in, I believe it was the earlier seasons.
Yeah, just
That's
the
right.
first season before they wrote 1, 2, 3, 4 Happy Days.
Right. It was Bill Haley and the Comets were played during the opening credits.
I'm sure the producers were like, we're spending way too much money in royalties on rock around the clock on this show.
Get Alan Thicke in here. But yeah, no, that was a great song, and I mean, I've always liked the Bill Haley and the Comets. So yeah, that'll be number 5 or 4.
I mean,
I ranked them higher. Come on, Jay. They deserve
great.
higher. Just kidding.
Yeah, I think they kind of do.
A fundamental band in the history of rock and roll.
For sure.
No doubt about it.
Josh.
So I may be stealing other people's picks here, but for number 3, we're going to the western part of the state.
Uh-oh. Right here?
And This is who I would consider to be Pennsylvania's Bruce Springsteen. Donnie Iris.
Dun, 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 dun. That's a good choice.
So,
You're just going with all these one-hit wonders.
because about Donnie Iris was, I mean, he had been like when he finally like kind of made it as big as a solo artist. He'd already been playing music for like almost 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
And had a hit.
yeah, and he was cool because he was kind of like, okay, I'm gonna play like arena rock, but it's also going to be new wave. It's going to be a little bit power pop, and so obviously, he has the classic rock staples, Alea and
Mm-hmm.
Love Is Like a Rock, but he has some really really killer tunes. Other than like Agnes is like epic, and really like all throughout like that early to mid '80s, Donnie Iris was like putting out really good like. Okay, sort of hard rockin', sort of power poppy, sort of new wave-ish records. And here's a guy, he'd been in the Jaggers, he'd been in Wild Cherry.
Mm-hmm.
He had a pretty distinguished career, and didn't really have that long of a solo career. But when he was at his peak, he was the dude.
Did he appear in a movie as Buddy Holly? Or did he, or like a prom? He played at the prom in a band.
I don't know if Donnie Iris ever had a film appearance. Like, he certainly could have been Buddy Holly. He certainly had that Buddy Holly look.
We need Jay. Donnie Iris, IMDb.
And Donnie Iris had a song.
I'm the man in the chair.
A Man in the Chair.
No, I said I'm the man in the chair.
Oh, you're the man in the chair. Yeah.
That wasn't the
Man in
movie.
the chair. But, man, Jay is really working fast on that IMDb.
Yeah, I mean, he wrote The Rapper. If people.
Yeah, I mean, after
Yeah.
all, I mean, that certainly adds to his cred here. And he's got a song, "Do You Compute," that came out like in '84. And if you listen to that, it's like the template for Alice Cooper's Poison. Like, Poison so totally ripped off "Do You Compute." It's pretty obvious.
Alice
I-
Cooper's making a lot of appearances. In
Yeah, you might as well steal from the best.
I don't see that Donnie Iris was actually in anything.
Okay. Maybe I confused. Maybe I thought Donnie Iris was the guy who's like the generic prom band in Fast Times at Ridgemont High. There's like, is it? Maybe that's Donnie Iris. Dominic Iris.
Yes.
IERACE. As opposed to his stage name, Donnie, IRIS.
Yes. But I just remember being like in 4th grade when Aaliyah came out and said, like, this is like the heaviest guitar I've heard on a pop song. This is so awesome.
But
yeah.
He's not a part of the Iron City House Rockers, is he? You know,
I would say no to that. Yes.
but you know that group, right?
The Iron City House Rockers.
Yeah.
No.
It's like a bar band style, like pub rockin' band from Pittsburgh.
No, I was not aware of.
It's like a cutout bin record that you see around.
Okay.
I was gonna say how, I mean, since we're kind of halfway into the list, like punk rock and new wave didn't really make a pit stop in PA and back in real time,
Right.
which is kind of weird. But when I was thinking about that, I was thinking about like, you kind of have to be fashionable to be on that bandwagon. And most of rural Pennsylvanians are probably like, nah, that's not for me. I know that there was like a band from Harrisburg, Billy Synth and the Janitors. Do you know
That's
that
right,
record?
yeah.
That was like of the time, and that's like a crazy synthesizer, like Suicide, crazy, like if it was released today, I think people would think of some great new crazy stuff. But and that record has a crazy story too. Like Billy Synth was like found murdered on the streets of Harrisburg.
Wow.
What?
Yeah. So it's like even this weird mystique around this crazy record. But yeah, like I mean, you
Wow.
can't really go back. You can't really trace back like a popular late 70s punk band to anywhere in Pennsylvania for
Hmm.
some reason. I mean, there's that band Pure Hell,
Yeah.
but that they weren't like the Sex Pistols or,
No.
or like there was no band like Paul Collins Beat or something like that like all that was coastal, not rural. But I think
Yeah.
that's why, because we got the there's the old "you think you're better than me" mentality. I'm not gonna dress up like that and wear a skinny tie. What do you think, you're better than me? I don't know. Maybe that's a far-flung opinion, but I mean, there's no Joe Jackson of Scranton
No.
per se.
Hmm.
I don't even know. I don't think anyone from Scranton Wilkes-Barre is going to make this list.
Yeah, I don't think Scranton's gonna make the cut. I don't think Erie is either.
But I have Bill Haley as my number 3, and that was one of the first LPs that I got when I started buying records as a youngster. Obviously, that music, but then like finding one, and I remember having good memories, like driving down Route 15 with Dan from the Dummies blasting Bill Haley and the Comets, thinking we were in the 50s or something. But I also wanted to do a little, since I won't go in too deep about Bill Haley because he's on 2 lists, but also talking about early 50s rock and roll, some really important ones. Singles are like the Silhouettes from Philadelphia, "Get a Job," which is an important rock and roll record. The Del Vikings, "Come Go With Me," and "Whispering Bells" formed in Pittsburgh. Danny and the Juniors, "At the Hop," and
That's the
"Rock
one
and
I
Roll
looked
Is Here to
at, yeah.
Stay," and the Turbans. It's a big doo-wop group, Philadelphia, because Bandstand, American Bandstand was from Philadelphia.
Oh, right.
So that was like the mecca of rock and roll at the time before it moved to Hollywood. So you had all these bands, kind of forming around that to even try to just get on that show. So those are my honorable mentions, subset of Bill Haley. Not a tie, but worth mentioning that those important rock and roll doo-wop groups were Pennsylvania.
Yeah. Yeah, that's big. That's really big.
Yeah. I mean, without the Silhouettes doing "Get a Job," there's no Sha Na Na. And without Sha, nothing.
No Bowser. No.
Yeah.
Without Sha Na Na, there's no Ramones.
Although there was something shocking to me, because they take that from "Get a Job," Sha Na 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 Sha. They took that, right? Sha Na Na. I found sheet music at a bookstore for doo-wop songs, and I lived through it, and "Get a Job" was in there with the lyrics and the musical notes, and the lyrics were "Sha Da Da Da." That's what it really is. It's "Sha Da Da Da." It's what they're singing originally. So the whole "Sha Na Na" was
It's
a
all a
lie.
lie. It's all built on a
Built into a
lie.
lie. It's not "Sha Na Na." It's "Sha Da Da." Anyway.
Dang. What next?
But yeah, Bill Haley. Oh, another fun little factoid. My best buddy growing up from like age 10, after he graduated high school, he and his family moved to Collegeville, Pennsylvania. And early on in his like 20s, he got a factory job, and he was like, "Yeah, I work with this guy who's like 73 years old, and he used to be in the Comets."
Wow.
Wow.
I was like, cool, but it's kind of sad.
Yeah, it
Like,
is sad.
Why wasn't the Comets guy taken care of better? He's just working in some like plastic fork factory outside of
Yeah, where are those royalty checks, man?
Happy Days is not paying very well.
Yeah, once the
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4 Happy Days came in, that dried up.
Yeah, like Rock Around the Clock just kind of got shoved aside. So I don't, I'm really bad at ranking stuff, as Josh knows. So I've just kind of been grabbing at things that. So my next pick is so I did not know this either, that Hall & Oates were from Pennsylvania. And you guys were telling me about Gulliver, which I listened to just a little bit, but I think with the risk of being, you know, you know, being called names, I think I like Hall & Oates better than Gulliver. uh,
Well, there's a reason that 8 million people have heard of Hall & Oates, and like the 3 of us have heard of Gulliver.
well, I was expecting, what hidden gem? Like you mentioned the gizmos. Oh, this is going to be like, is this some hidden thing I'm going to love that nobody knows? I'm listening to it. I'm like, no, it's not. I'm not a big fan of this.
Well, this was like, some guy came to Daryl Hall and was like, you got to ditch these guys. You're better than this.
Good call. But yeah, I mean, Hall & Oates have, oddly always been a big part of my life because my mom loved them. And so, I mean, even like, I remember she had the LPs, and she's a huge fan. So I don't know. I guess whenever I hear him, I always think of her, and it's just something like a childhood thing. So yeah, my big is Hall & Oates.
What's your childest Hall & Oates song memory?
That's a good question.
I
remember watching videos for like Say It Isn't So, like Private Eyes, Man Eater, just because they're on MTV all the time.
And even going back further, they dipped their toes into the new wave a little bit. There's that song Portable Radio.
I don't remember that one. That must have been like,
Portable Radio.
I don't remember.
I think they even have like makeup on the cover. Portable Radio. I'll have Alex style that one in.
Yeah, no, I don't remember that. But yeah, I was kind of like MTV era Hall & Oates,
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I guess they're my next pick. They're, like I said, I still listen to them every now and again.
And he got signed. They got signed unseen by the label because the label thought that he was a black guy, and they thought they were signing a soul singer, a Philly soul singer.
That's crazy.
And then like he came to the office, and they're like, "Who are you? Are you bringing us lunch?" I'm like, "No, I'm
Daryl Hall."
Yeah.
Well, I remember it was a huge deal when he sang with, was it the Temptations or the
Mm-hmm.
Four Tops at the Apollo, like in the 80s. And I'm like, yeah, that's like the first white dude that's been on this stage. Like, he was like, I don't know if he was the first, but he was like, you can count him on one hand.
Yeah.
And yeah, he made it up there with them.
But I mean, he's legit. Like
Yeah, he
Hall & Oates in the
is.
70s is like a legitimate like soul group.
Yeah, I think the music videos made them seem corny.
Right.
Like it didn't like, they're forced to do hokey stuff in videos, but if you hear the songs without that, they're not really hokey sounding necessarily.
Yeah. Oh, the dude's got a voice.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just, there's no doubt about that. Yeah, the songs just have a knack of just earworm,
And now they're feuding.
Yeah,
I know, it's so
breaks my heart that
depressing.
they hate each other because there's really no Hall & Oates without Oates. It was never just the Hall show. Yeah, he was the lead singer.
Is Oates a PA native?
Yeah, they're both from Philadelphia.
Okay, so they probably
area. And they were, pretty amazing to have like the longevity that they did, and to be able to kind of navigate the changes in what was popular musically and still have hits.
Sadly, there was no grunge era of Hall when that took over.
We were spared the grunge era of Hall & Oates. That would have been pretty interesting.
That's hilarious. All right, sweet. Well, I think Josh is up for a number 2.
So
you don't have to excuse yourself to use the bathroom. I mean, your ranking of number 2.
So we're gonna stick with the Philadelphia soul music here. You know, and I love the Delphonics and the stylistics, but number one for me for Philadelphia soul music is Harold Melvin and the Blue Notes,
Huge song.
because that to me, Gamble and Huff as producers and songwriters, that's the gold in Philadelphia soul. And so with Harold Melvin and the Blue Notes, you've got Gamble and Huff, you've got the Philly International House Band, and you've got Teddy Pendergrass on lead vocals for most of their hits. And what a absolute incredible singer. Old Teddy.
And also kind of funny that like it was a fictitious thing at first and then made it into a real thing, right?
Yeah. And anything from like, you know, like 73 through 75 with them is just fantastic. So many of the great tracks. You know, I mean, Wake Up Everybody is still iconic. You know, The Love I Lost, and of course the songs that they did that were then later recorded by other artists. You know, Don't Leave Me This Way. If You Don't Know Me By Now, it's like when you hear what it sounded like with Teddy Pendergrass singing that stuff, it's like, wow, those later versions just, you know, pale in comparison. You know, Where Are All My Friends, Satisfaction Guaranteed, or Take Your Love Back, Bad Luck. Yeah, there's so many great songs. I mean, really anything that Gamble and Huff was producing in that era is just fantastic. And I love the OJs, but you know, OJs are not from Pennsylvania. They were just produced by.
That's my favorite Irish soul group. The OJs.
It's funny.
Yeah, I mean, that Gamble and Huff is like so overshadowed by Motown that it's kind of sad, or you know, like Stax. But it's really kind of equal.
Yeah, it's like the sound that they got on those records just so amazing, like with the strings and the horns and just the massive vocals.
And it was like the sound of the decade, even, you know, like
yeah,
huge deal. I remember being little and being like in the back seat of the car and being obsessed with If You Don't Know Me By Now, like really. Yeah. Like really like trying to pay attention to what he's singing and being like, whoa, this is such a story, and the melody is so crazy and it's like epic, and like just kind of like fantasizing about like these adult situations. Like what is this? I don't even know. And now like when you get older you don't realize like, well, maybe the whole country didn't get this song. Maybe I'm just lucky because it's regional, you know?
Yeah. So
I'll hear songs that are like a song will come on and it will be like a regional thing for Chicago or Minnesota, and Georgia will be like, oh, you don't know this song? I'm like, no, we didn't get this song out in Pennsylvania. This is regional Midwest.
Yeah, that's an interesting thing, like regional hits. Like, you know, we had Tommy Conwell and the Young Rumblers. And most people were like, who the hell are Tommy Conwell and the Young Rumblers?
Yeah.
And you're like, well, think of Jason and the Scorchers, but East Coast.
One time I was at a Prostitutes concert, and then Kevin was definitely in some kind of state of inebriation, as he may have been when he was younger. And he says, we're the Prostitutes, and we're from Pennsylvania. We're the only good bands are the Hooters and the Sharks. I think I was the only person in the crowd that got the joke.
It's a good one, though.
Yeah.
All right, Jay. Number 2. Am I on?
I think you're.
I'm on for number 2.
You're on the spot.
So you asked about the Springsteen of Pennsylvania, and John did his Springsteen of Western Pennsylvania, but I'm going to introduce the Springsteen of Southeastern Pennsylvania.
You guys are lucky to have more than one.
Yeah.
and there's a saying that even goes with it, and that saying is "Todd is God."
Oh yes.
And so I'm choosing.
Oh yeah.
Hugely favorite group. We got Naz here. We got Naz. And that's just some of my all-time favorite 60s nuggets, whatever you want to call it. I mean, they're kind of obviously based on like a Beatles thing, but they were way beyond like a Beatles copy garage band. Open Your Eyes is a super amazing nugget hit. And yeah, that's such a great group. And they have that great video for Open Your Eyes. It's like in the park in Philadelphia. And it's just very, when I hear it, I'm just there. I'm in PA in the woods. But of course, this album also yields Hello, It's Me, Nas, the first Nas album. And that song obviously went on to be a huge monster hit for Todd Rundgren. And of course, you know, he produced New York Dolls. He produced tons of other great stuff. And what's the other big one? I Saw the Light.
Yeah.
Rundgren hit. But yeah, that's what they say down there. Todd is God.
Interesting.
Yeah, so many great Nas songs and Todd songs, and of course, then he went on to have Utopia, which is not totally my thing, but they do have good songs. They have one of the best. Well, I can't say that it's a hidden secret power pop album now, because now everyone will know about it. Then I'm saying it on this popular podcast. The Utopia album, Deface the Music. Do you know this?
Mm-mm.
It's kind of based on trying to do Beatle rips, but it comes across as this amazing power pop album. I should have pulled it for a visual for you guys, but it's a total dollar record. You can find it anywhere. It's just got their heads like statues looking like Meet the Beatles. And I Just Want to Touch You is the big one off that. It's like a total Beatles song. They even have a video for it that's like black and white, like they're playing on Ed Sullivan or something like that. But it's great, like Raspberries, power pop. And that's Utopia, who's Utopia is mostly known for being like a progressive band with like crazy timing and all that stuff and synthesizers. But yeah, they went through the power pop phase. For sure. But this is about Nas, not Utopia. I just had to go off on a little Todd tangent there.
It's a good nugget of information. I wrote it down.
Yeah. I think people in that area are, you know, Todd crazy for sure.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, well, that's pretty cool.
I mean, I guess, you know, people in other areas probably know him from his more super famous stuff. Like being in the new Cars.
Yeah, being in the new Cars.
He was in the new Cars, but he still produces stuff. I think he lives in Hawaii now.
Nice.
Yeah, so that just goes to show you how well he's done with his life, that he can afford to live like in Honolulu or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, those Nas albums are highly recommended. They're, you know, they're not super psychedelic, but it's got like, you know, crazy guitars and it's just great.
So I'm gonna put Danny and the Juniors as my next pick.
Ooh.
But you know, in scanning their Wikipedia page, one of the vocalists, Danny Rapp, says was found dead in a hotel in Arizona of an apparent suicide in 1983.
Wow.
Dang.
So
that's a dark connection.
Grim connection.
To Arizona.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah, we don't have to, you know, you guys.
Wait, that's why it's your next pick?
No. Like, there's my in. No, it just, you know, horrible coincidence. I just was scanning this Wikipedia page and saw this, but yeah. So that's they're my next pick. Josh, what do you got?
I had an amazing Nas moment once. When well, it was just more of an inner moment with the Fevers band. We were on tour in a club in Spain, in Europe. And the club we're like, when you're just waiting to play, you're just sitting around waiting. And they had the speakers set up and they played Open My Eyes. And I probably only heard it in the stereo or mono record, whatever. But at some point in time, Todd Rundgren must have produced a quadraphonic sound version of it. And they had the speakers set up like that in the club. So there's actually parts in that song where it's like swirling these 4 speakers around the room. It was just like, it really made me open my eyes, guys.
How about that?
But yeah, like,
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So that was a good Todd moment. Are we getting to number 1?
We are down to number 1.
Wow.
This is the serious.
So many people are probably buying plane tickets to Pennsylvania right now.
To say, I'm going to walk on the same ground
We haven't even touched on the food yet either.
Todd Rundgren once walked.
I'm going to find the sidewalk where Billy Synth was murdered.
So my number 1, now this is like really like in terms of autobiographical significance, like really important, because I think this is maybe like the first like recording artist I ever like actually listened to as a child, and I didn't really ever get like a lot of cool stuff from my dad. My dad did not pass on much to me, other than the Phillies. But Jim Croce.
Okay.
My dad was a big Jim Croce fan. He had all his records, and so this is probably only like a couple years after he died. Jim Croce died in the plane crash tragically. And so, he would be down in his den listening to Jim Croce, and that was, there's not much more of a 70s thing than like a dad having a den, his own office where he can sit and listen to records. And so, of course, I started listening to the Jim Croce records, and
they only now have a horrible name for the den, and I don't even want to say it. And you know what it is, and it's
yes.
And I'm not even gonna dignify saying what it is but we all know what it is.
Yeah.
Bring back the den.
bring back dens, but
bring back the Croce den.
It's incredible, right? Because I was, probably 4 or 5, 6 years old. I didn't understand that much of what he was singing about. But yeah, even at that age, you understand great songs and great melodies and amazing choruses and powerful singing voice. But I mean, this dude was like, slogging it out there for a decade, trying to make it in music, working jobs, not getting anywhere. And then he finally makes it, and then a year and a half, and he's dead.
Yeah.
So tragic that we could have had so much more of Jim Croce, but he was cool because obviously this is the 70s, and call it folk rock or soft rock, wherever you want. But he would kind of go back and forth between like the love songs, but then the writing about the storytelling and dudes getting into bar fights. And
tell me what your prediction of Jim Croce in the 80s would have been. What would he have
that's
done?
Interesting. I don't think Jim Croce would have had a new wave era. I think he would have.
He wouldn't have drums that go.
No, I think Jim Croce in the 80s, he would have probably had a decline in popularity because he would not have compromised.
I bet he would have drifted into the Nashville area.
I think, yeah, because he had a little bit of that in some of his songs that, could have almost been that, the fact that, it was very acoustic and very, very melody driven. But of course, being a kid, I loved Bad Leroy Brown because there was, cussing in it. You don't mess around with Jim. It's cool.
I will say this. I'll give a little Jim Croce testimonial would be that they used "Don't Mess Around with Jim" in Stranger Things.
Wow.
A couple seasons ago, and our daughter, who was like 10 at the time, was like all over that song because
really,
yeah, because it was just in this great scene where the character Hopper, Jim Hopper, he like tells off the kid or whatever, and he's feeling really good about it. And he gets in his Bronco and turns it on, and he's like tapping on the steering wheel, jamming to it. But she just like glommed onto that song and like, you know, loved it because she loved that character. And like
Wow.
we had the Stranger Things CD and like would hear it, listen to it in the car and stuff. So, you know, multi-generationally loved.
Yeah, it's like,
And that's
Cool.
with no bias. That's not
Yeah.
people like picking up a record cover and like, oh, this guy doesn't look very cool, I'm not going to listen to it. This is just a young kid with fresh young ears hearing that song and being like, this is great. This is cool.
yeah, like
Yeah.
the songs just hold up. Like Operator is like one of the greatest songs ever written. It's just so freaking devastating. Like you talk about love songs that just absolutely crush you, and you know, a lot of people try to write stuff like that, but that's just magic. You know, Time in a Bottle, I Got a Name. Yeah, just incredible songwriting. The fact that all these songs that he's known for, you know, there's all these greatest hits compilations out there and everything. It's just stuff that he wrote like in like 2-3 year period. It's pretty remarkable.
He doesn't have does he have any placards out there?
You know, I don't know if there's any proper memorials to Jim Croce in Upper Darby, Pennsylvania.
Upper Darby Crash. That's the biggest punk from Pennsylvania. Upper Darby Crash. All right.
Numero uno.
Okay, my numero uno is, and this band I've loved since I first heard them, and they always bring back a Pennsylvania vibe when I hear them, and they're world renowned. They're loved by many all over the world. I got to audition with them once and play with them because I loved them so much, and they are from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, the Cynics.
Oh yeah.
And these guys have
Nice.
such a deep discography that's just great, from like 86 to the present. And they have that great just garage sound that like is kind of Sylvan in itself. You like that tie-in? It's very woodsy and like the 60s vibe. That's like, just anytime I drive into Pennsylvania, I want to put the CD in the car and listen to it. And the main album, I pulled out all the records and stuff, but I'm not going to show them to you all because
It's a lot.
that's ridiculous. But just wanted to have them in front of me to talk about them. But the main exposure from them for me was probably their most well-known and most beloved album called Rock and Roll, which came out in 89 or something like that. But like those hits we were talking about, when an album came out in 89, you played it for 4 or 5 more years.
Yeah.
You didn't just move on to the next thing so quickly. And I got a tape of that from one of the Dummies guys, taped it for me. And yeah, it's just so great. And they started off kind of being more 60s jangly kind of. And then with this one, Rock and Roll, it got a little more fuzz, a little more garage punk, which was as funny because that guy I mentioned, Martin McMartin, who was the Flipside writer from Pennsylvania, also a huge Todd fan. He and his crew all thought, oh, the Cynics, man, they went heavy metal when Rock and Roll came out because it was like a little bit heavier fuzz pedals and stuff, which is humorous to go back and listen to it now. It's like it's not even close to being them going heavy metal. But he told me that. I thought that was a funny little anecdote. But Greg and Michael, Greg runs Get Hip Records, responsible for many great releases. And they've had a few different lineups, but that one lineup that plays on Rock and Roll with Tom Hahn, the amazing drummer on that. It just was a great inspiration to me, learning the drums at the same time as getting into their music. And yeah, there was one time when I got their guy that was going to play at this this horrible Little Stevens festival that was like on Jones Beach or somewhere in New York, that was like sponsored by Dunkin' Donuts and had a Iggy Pop and Bo Diddley and all these guys were like a huge Little Steven thing.
Wow.
And this guy couldn't do it, right? And I was like, oh, I'll do it. I'll come out and do it. So I drove from Williamsport over to Get Hip and set up the drums, and it was just me and Greg and Michael. I was like, I don't even need you to show me anything. I know all these songs already in my mind. I can sit down and play them. I'm ready. And we did it. And then, you know what happened? The other guy was able to do it. Trombone. But me and Georgia both auditioned for the Cynics at different times, because she worked at Get Hip too, and she, I think, played a set with them on the bass once. But
wow,
she didn't get to perform with them ever. But they're just really such a solid group. Like in comparison to like even a group like the Ramones, like they have all these albums and there's not a dog in the bunch. You know, even in the all the way through a track listing on an album, there's nothing you want to skip. And they're just my main Pennsylvania band.
Nice.
Awesome.
They're very worthy of a #1 slot.
I think so, yes. And I don't mean they could come out with an album at any time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they're lifers. They'll do it until one of them does not exist anymore.
Yeah. So I I don't really have a #1. However, I do want to touch on, so you guys mentioned that like punk and new wave kind of skipped over Pennsylvania. But one thing that apparently did not was hair metal.
True. Yes.
Because I'm looking at this list and I'm like,
some heavy hitters.
oh yeah, I mean, all the way out here, you know, MTV rotation heavy hitters, you know, Britney Fox, Cinderella, Dirty Looks, Poison. I know I saw another one in here too. Was it Heaven's Edge? There's that's pretty impressive. So when those guys were big, were they kind of I'm losing my voice? Were they kind of like, were they all over Pennsylvania? Like, was everybody like wearing Cinderella and Poison shirts?
It was brutal. I don't think you're losing your voice. I think you're getting choked up talking about that.
I've got every rose has a thorn in the back of my mind, and I'm getting a little teary.
I mean, that was inescapable. I mean, that was inescapable nationwide, but like, just like the hard rock white trash kid that lived up the creek in the trailer was just like, that was just, you know, and the girls at the skating rink and the hair with the bangs explosion, you know, it was just everywhere. It was like ubiquitous. But I remember when that came out, and it was like, whoa, look what the cat dragged in. Literally. But I don't even think like I didn't know that they were from around the way. That was because that was a huge album that just came out.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I wasn't privy. I wasn't that, you know, when you're in middle school, 2 hours away is forever away. I didn't know that they lived those guys were from around 2 hours away.
Yeah, they had relocated, you know, to California to make it big. But yeah, they had certainly had developed their chops in the Harrisburg area.
And I do remember when this is someone who I couldn't put her on the list. I tried really hard because obviously all of our list, there's no women on our list, which is kind of sad. But Joan Jett, Pennsylvania born.
Was she
Pennsylvania
really?
born. I
But
couldn't
she
put
didn't
her
make any
on.
music here. She
Yeah,
didn't
because she
create
didn't.
any of her groups
Oh,
here.
that's a
She wasn't in
technicality.
Pennsylvania long enough to
Yeah.
truly count as a Pennsylvanian.
But
Hmm.
I remember when she came to Williamsport and played at the same theater that Alice Cooper did later. The opening act was Cinderella. And I was like, what? No, I'm not going to go to that. I don't want to see Cinderella with Joan Jett. Because I was like at the height. That was like when Joan Jett was doing, what's the song? What's the hair metal song?
I hate myself for loving you.
Yeah, I hate myself for loving you. We were kind of like, what did she do? What's going on? That's like another thing, like thinking that the Cynics went metal with rock and roll, thinking that is like a hair metal song. You listen,
Yeah.
now it's just like the same as any other Joan Jett song.
Yeah, like Light of Day, like all those. Yeah, that's pretty impressive.
But I mean, me and Josh have had this texting conversation about how, like, take away some production values on some of those Poison songs, and that it might as well be Plimsoll's songs.
Oh yeah,
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Fallen Angel and what's the first song on that album? Because I saw Aliens and Strangers play it once. Cry Tough.
yeah.
Mm.
Like if you put like 12-string Rickenbacker clean amps on those songs, like you have the Plimsolls. It's great.
That's
I mean, it really is.
interesting.
Like those are like power pop songs disguised in metal to be on trend.
Yeah, that was definitely an influence. They definitely were listening to. There was somebody in that band that liked good music.
Yeah, for sure. I did corner CC DeVille once at one of his gigs out here and talked to him. And like, I went to the autograph line to talk to him and held up the line, was like 30 feet back. And I started talking to him about like the Muffs and Johnny Thunders and stuff. And he was like,
Wow.
oh, it's great. This guy's great. Because it was mostly just like towny people, going. He had some crappy band called Sister Seven or something, I forget it was, but they played Poison songs at it, and this was just some roadside bar in like Minneapolis suburb, but he was cool. I liked him. He's not a Pennsylvania native though. He's from Brooklyn. He's the New York guy.
Yeah, I guess you can kind of tell by the way he talks. Since
you're on it, we're on a little tangent here. Just do yourself a favor and watch CC DeVille on Rock and Roll Jeopardy. You won't regret it. You can find that YouTube link.
Really?
That's really why I wanted to go through and talk to him. I was like, I had to talk to you about Rock and Roll Jeopardy. It's like, oh my God, you watched that. And then of course he was really slayed when I mentioned his appearance on a Muffs song.
Okay, that's starting to come back to me. What song was he on? It was one of the later ones, right?
Yeah, middle period. It's a song called Silly People. It's from a live alert today, but on Muff's anthology called Hamburger, there's like an outtake that has CC DeVille on it because they were recording in the same facility and CC was across the hall. And Kim left to go get lunch or something. And they brought in CC to like shred a guitar solo over her solo. So they have this version of him playing on it. And of course, she comes back and it's ha ha ha. And so she actually has a vocal on it of her saying, hit it, CC. And then he rips into this guitar solo. But I mean, it sounds great.
That's funny.
That's completely non-Pennsylvania related, so we'll have to edit that out.
That's true. So, should we proceed on to the snacks?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, hang on. You guys keep talking. I have to do something.
So, Josh, what is the difference between a country-made donut and like a regular run-of-the-mill Krispy Kreme donut?
I think it's just the name of the brand. I don't
think
there's any actual difference in the donut.
Costume change.
Oh, there we go.
No.
Middlesworth, which certain people we know would say is an overrated
Certain
chip.
people.
Yeah. We won't mention any names.
So
I
regional
had to throw this
snacks.
one on. It was a toss up between this one, this shirt, and this one. So, but I'm going to go with this one.
There you go. Yeah, but you could really go with any Hershey product,
Yeah.
and it would certainly count as a Pennsylvania snack. So I don't know if you were going to do specific brands or you're going to do general foods, but we're just going to let you do the whole list.
I think we should just talk about some food.
Okay.
Yeah. We can list it too.
All right.
We can list it, but it doesn't have to be like this hardcore ranking like with the bands, because like whereas the Cynics is a more dear band than the Tough Shits to me, that kind of thing. It's not, my top food is not as dear as like my third food, but I don't know what any of that means. But
I feel if you're repping for Middlesworth right now,
visually, yes.
Visually, and that is certainly an iconic chip in Pennsylvania, but you would say it's only the barbecue?
Barbecue only is my number. I mean, I do have a ranking here, but that's my number 2.
Okay.
That's like when I go back, I get them. But also, like, that was just the chip. Like, my parents owned a bar and like 25-cent bags of Middlesworth barbecue only. Something about the plain is gross.
Really?
And that happens too, because like my favorite chip is Hartley's, but only Hartley's barbecue waffle.
See?
And that's like the greatest chip in America. But if you just get regular Hartley's plain chips, they kind of suck.
Mm-hmm.
So there is something to the barbecue.
And I'm not sure what it is, but the state of Pennsylvania definitely has potato chip culture.
Yeah, we have deep snack culture here. There's so many potato chip companies that still make like non-corporate regional potato chips, and the same thing with the pretzels. So we got all the different pretzel places in York County
Amazing.
and Berks County and Lancaster County.
The Middlesworth chip is potatoes. It is potato chips. It's not, because some people might think it's like the crushed potato sweepings or something like that, because it's so thin. It's very thin, right?
Oh.
Yes.
But for the barbecue only, I guess it's like a paprika cayenne dust that goes over them, but it's so unique. And I can understand how people would keep eating a bag of them and think that it's gross, but it's just a thing. It's just like it's a staple. Are you the person? You're a non-barbecue Middlesworth?
I tried the non-barbecue Middlesworth and didn't like it.
Yeah, they're gross. Sour cream and onion, gross. Barbecue, great. And
Weird.
Jay, they make these things. I don't know if anyone else has ever made them, but they come in a barrel, like a round cylinder that's like lasts you the weekend. Well, now they make the ginormous bags called the Weekenders.
Yeah.
But before it would come in like this, like a pretzel barrel, probably derived from a pretzel tin, but a cardboard Middlesworth bucket, which you could then in turn keep your Matchbox cars in when it was empty.
Nice.
But
so I was eyeing this Middlesworth gift basket sampler, so I should stay away from that then.
I think you should do the taste test if you want to.
Okay. Because you guys both are saying it's gross, like they're all gross except for barbecue.
But
so,
I don't know. I mean, there's been probably 100 times in my life that I had sub with plain Middlesworth chips, and that can work. It's these weird taste combinations.
Yeah, I definitely get that. All right. Yeah, 'cause it's only like $20 and there's quite a few bags in there.
PAsnacks.com. What's up?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
I'm going to start at the bottom of my list real quick and name a couple things.
Yeah.
This is something, one of my favorite things that people probably don't know that it's derived in Pennsylvania, but this is a broad one. The banana split.
Really?
Really?
Go-to dessert for me was invented at a drugstore in Latrobe, Pennsylvania.
How about that?
Wow. That's interesting. I love
Rolling
a big
Rock
banana
beer
split.
and the banana split. Latrobe.
And Arnold Palmer.
Yeah.
So Latrobe has an incredible legacy.
I tied that with a whoopie pie.
I don't know what a whoopie
Yes.
pie is.
Do you have a particular favorite flavor for whoopie pie?
Traditional.
Okay.
And a whoopie pie, I would always see whoopie pies being sold by the Amish at farmers markets.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like a oversized looking Oreo cookie.
Yeah.
With some kind of fluff in the center and a chocolatey baked bun.
Looks mighty delicious.
I know that I've eaten some. I've bit into a whoopie pie and like it was like a lightning bolt hitting my teeth. Like so sweet you can't handle it. But yeah, whoopie pie. Okay, up the list for Josh as we get hungrier.
Okay, so I've got the Hartley's barbecue waffle potato chips. I'm gonna go iconic here. I mean, obviously, and Jay says that they have this product in Arizona, Tastykakes.
Yes.
There's a lot of good Tastykakes, but I just don't think that you ever top the butterscotch crimpet.
I was hoping we could say that in unison, but I was gonna say okay on 3 because I'll just proof here Tastykake butterscotch crimpet on my list. Right?
All right.
That's like when I say barbecue Middlesworth only, butterscotch crimpets only.
Butterscotch crimpets only.
Although Georgia gets the jelly filled.
Oh. Because what I always hate as a child is I would open it up and some of the butterscotch would stick to the paper. And
that's a heartbreaker.
it's a heartbreaker. I seem to have figured out how to not make the butterscotch stick to the paper now.
Now, I have something to ask you about butterscotch crimpets. Do you think that they've gotten smaller over the years, like in a corporate way, where they like charge the same but they're smaller?
It's possible. I don't have any evidence to prove it though.
Smaller and a little less fluffy, but still delicious. Well,
Yeah.
but also it might be because like when you're little, they seem huge because your hands are small.
Yeah.
And now we have big hands.
I figured that
Also-
people would have noticed if they had just changed the size at some point, unless they just made it smaller.
There
by
would have been an
degrees.
uproar.
Yeah.
Shout out to candy cakes too.
Yeah, those are fantastic too. Yes, and the coffee cakes. I mean, that's like my holy trinity there.
Yeah. For any listeners out there who are not familiar, Tastykake is a snack cake company based in Philadelphia. Now, Josh, have you ever seen the commercial that is a Tastykake butterscotch crimpet and the Philly Fanatic palling around?
I've seen thousands of, of commercials for Tastykakes, so I'm pretty sure I've seen that one.
Yeah,
yes.
that's a good one. The Fanatic and a crimpet
Yeah,
dancing around together.
'cause you
pretty
grew up
great.
in the '70s, in the Philadelphia market. You become familiar with the Tastykake jingle and all the commercials on
Well,
the Phillies
Oh.
games.
We'll have to share a link to the commercial. I'll send one.
So there's 3 on the Tastykake side. There's 3 different candy cakes. They all look pretty good. The peanut butter one, there's a chocolate one, and a coconut one.
Peanut butter.
Yeah, peanut butter is
Easy.
the only one.
I don't know. I'm going to reserve judgment for now because these all look pretty good.
Okay, I'm going to do a broad one too. Now, Pennsylvania has a faction of folks called the Pennsylvania Dutch, but they are not Dutch people. They are German people, and a lot of Bavarian delicacies have made their way over. And the soft pretzel, one of my all-time favorite things to eat, is a Pennsylvania staple, soft pretzel.
The soft pretzel is the best. And there are some places, like in this country, where maybe you can't find a good soft pretzel. And it doesn't have to be any particular brand of soft pretzel, just
Mm-hmm.
the quality soft pretzel. Like that's when my wife and I go to like any kind of like pub or brewery or something. We're always ordering like the giant soft pretzel because that's how we judge whether or not it's a good establishment or not. So that is fantastic.
At our mall in Williamsport, the Lycoming Mall, before that Auntie Annie's bullshit came in, the pretzel store was just called Bavarian Pretzels.
Yes, Bavarian. That was the place at the mall.
And that was almost like a first stop at the mall. Just go get that right away. And of course, you'd have your yellow cheese to dip.
Yeah. Big fan. I'm a big fan of big soft pretzels. My daughter, she played volleyball at this facility, and they had soft pretzels with the best, like this, like sharp, like tangy cheese sauce. It was out of this world. But yeah, the season ended, so I'm looking forward to next season. Get those pretzels.
Okay, let's keep rolling here with this food. I'm loving it.
Yeah, the soft pretzel is pretty iconic in Pennsylvania. I'm gonna go with pierogi.
He's going out west.
Yeah, because some people say, "Oh, that's not really Pennsylvania," but it is. Like Western
Totally.
Pennsylvania, pierogi is absolutely part of.
What is that? I don't know what that is.
So you've never had a pierogi before?
No.
Oh my goodness. So,
like, how would you spell that?
Well, you can spell it many ways.
It's very controversial because it's spelled in many, many different ways. But basically, it's a Polish dumpling with a filling, and most often the filling is mashed potatoes. So basically, in a way, it's almost like they took pasta and stuffed it with mashed potatoes and fried it. And that is the first time I actually had pierogi. It wasn't even until I went to college, and I was at Penn State in the dining hall, and of course they had the people who were trying to sell the pierogi, so they were there promoting it, and I thought, my dreams have come true. This is the greatest food that has ever been made. And you can boil it and stuff, but the best way to have a pierogi is to have it fried, because then you get that like super crunchy dumpling part of it, and then like the soft mashed potatoes on the inside, and then a lot of times they'll put onions in it and cheese. It's pretty fantastic.
And of course, being like young boys, we'd probably eat like a whole frozen bag of them.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah. like a bag that's mainly reserved for like a family dinner. You just dog a bag of pierogies, like from the grocery store freezer bag. But the first time, obviously growing up, I would have the frozen bag, but then when you get to like a restaurant that makes fresh pierogies, it's like a whole another level, And now of course, like pierogi culture has excelled, and you can get crazy innards on your pierogies.
Oh yeah, you
can
get
really
anything you want inside a pierogi.
Like if you take a hard look, Jay, you might end up seeing a meme, I guess it's called, of like a Halloween bucket with pierogies filled in it that says "Take one." Like you might see that out there.
Yeah, so I see. It says typical fillings are potato, cheese, sauerkraut, ground meat, mushrooms, fruits.
I've never had a fruit pierogi. That seems not right.
Sacrilegious.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty much whatever will fit in that little pocket.
I have two little staples here. Next, Lebanon bologna sandwich,
Oh yes.
Mm.
which it's going to be really hard to articulate the taste of Lebanon bologna through a podcast, but it's a very special lunch meat. How do you describe? You can't describe it.
It's like a smoky
Yes, okay.
bologna.
And it's not people. I think an outsider would call it a salami,
Yes.
but it's
Mm.
not per se.
No.
And I would always have it with straight up yellow mustard.
Absolutely. Like
Yeah.
that's another thing that was, I just grew up listening to the Lebanon bologna commercials during the Phillies games.
Hmm.
Seltzer's Lebanon bologna, which is still the only.
Now, Jay, this
company.
is not meat from the Middle East. It's from Lebanon, Pennsylvania.
They'll fly it in to PA
Yeah,
special.
not from Lebanon.
Yeah, not Lebanon bologna.
And I tied that one with pickled beets, pickled eggs, which people, they don't understand. When they see that combo, they kind of freak out to see a purple egg they are about to eat. But that is a really good one. And you don't see it outside of the area too often.
Yeah, I've never seen it before.
So it's like, hard-boiled eggs pickled in like a beet vinegar brine.
Uh-huh.
So
Interesting.
you have the beets and your pickled eggs that are bright pink with the yellow yolk.
Hmm.
And maybe you wash that down with a frozen run birch beer or a Weiss.
Yeah, birch beer is the best.
Jay, birch beer?
No. I don't know.
I think someone's about to get into a food importing game here for the greater Arizona area.
This all seems really interesting.
A lot of times now your frozen birch or your birch beer is just high fructose corn syrup, which is kind of a bummer. But if you can find some authentic stuff,
Yeah, you can still find places that make it with cane sugar.
mm-hmm. I only have two unsaid foods. My next one is a annual feast, which is pork and sauerkraut.
Classic.
Those foods separately are international, but in Pennsylvania, you eat pork and sauerkraut on New Year's for good luck.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I would not be opposed to this.
And this is another Pennsylvania Dutch / Bavarian / German import from York. Get it?
Sounds pretty good.
York and sauerkraut. I think we often share pictures of our New Year's Day food.
Yes, the pork and sauerkraut.
Because we're also mustard fans too, so we'll always bring back mustard. Although I don't want to say this too loud, but we're into Cleveland mustard.
Oh yeah, that's the best mustard by far. It's the stadium mustard. But I will also go with the Pennsylvania Dutch, sometimes consumed at New Year's. This will be the most controversial choice here, but I'm going to go with hog maw.
Oh, made famous by The Office.
Yeah, a lot of people find hog maw to be very, very, very disgusting. So Jay, have you ever heard of hog maw?
Nope.
So basically, it's pig stomach.
Like haggis.
Yeah, kind of like Pennsylvania Dutch haggis. And usually it's potatoes in with the delectable pig stomach. And the problem with hog maw is it smells rather foul. And so
it smells like the name would indicate.
And so sometimes my mom would bake a hog maw and then give me stuff to bring home, and then it would stink up the refrigerator so bad that my wife's like, "No, you can never have this in the house again." And now I'm not even allowed to like get it for takeout. So I
It's
don't know.
also a great word that can perpetuate the Pennsylvania accent to its
Yeah.
full extreme. Hog maw.
Hog maw.
Yeah, Jay, there's a scene like in the show The Office where there's a hog maw at like the Christmas party, and one of the characters thinks that it's a hog mama, like a hog mother. Heaven, maybe. So I think that The Office did a pretty good justice to the greater Pennsylvania area being made in Hollywood.
Yeah, they did a pretty good job with that. It felt authentic. Like I still feel like every time I drive up by Scranton that there's has to be actual Schrute Farms there somewhere.
I mean, no one was listening to the Naz or the prostitutes on the Office. They did pretty good.
Well, I'm reading here that says there's variations of the hog maw in Chinese, Mexican, Portuguese, Italian, and Vietnamese cuisines.
Yes.
That's a taste that appeals to many walks
You
of
wanna
life.
make good use out of that pig's stomach.
Yeah. It's interesting.
I mean, I always find it fascinating when people are pick and choose about what parts of the animal are gross and not gross to
Right?
eat. Like, I mean, like the difference between flesh and an organ. Like, I don't know. It's
Yeah. That's a
I'll
good
eat
point.
this, but not that.
Well, you
Well,
guys,
I
is
have-
that your list? You got one
I have
more?
one more, and this is ultra specific.
Okay.
This is going to be the cheesesteak hoagie from Joe's Pizza in Williamsport, Pennsylvania.
Oh.
A place where I was in high school, the maker of these cheesesteaks.
Ah.
But it's owned by two brothers that originally had from Sicily, and they had the pizza place at our mall down the way from Bavarian Pretzels called Capri Pizza. They moved out of the mall and opened a pizza place literally on the border of our high school, like right at the edge of the grass.
Wow.
Unimart and Joe's Pizza. And I ended up working there being the cheesesteak guy. But these guys had their amazing old Sicilian bread dough recipe, and every night we would bake these. We would get the dough ready and have these huge stacks in these round bread pans for the dough to be ready. And so they would use part of it for crusts for tossing, and then another section to make these bread loaves about that big. And of course, it's Josh is going to fight me on this one, but I have to say the P word. Do you know what I'm going to say? Provolone cheese.
Ah.
Provolone cheese goes on these cheesesteaks. But it's really, I mean, I want to tell you that if you have an afternoon, that you should drive up there and get one.
Wow.
I always take people to get one, and like his pizza. So, and these guys like lived there for like 30 years and never learned English, like hardcore Sicilian dudes.
It's impressive.
And he would toss the pizza, and we would be the cheesesteak guys. But I almost can, when I go back there and visit there, I never get the pizza because I just want to get that sandwich. And maybe even order two, like in a row.
One
like,
for the road.
Wow.
No. Two at the table.
Oh, sweet.
And when we were, I think we talked about this last time we were talking about music stuff. I went on tour with Josie Cotton from here to New York, and I got us a show in Williamsport, and we played there. And of course I took the whole band. I was like, this is where I worked in high school, and you got it. have this thing. So the whole band got these cheesesteak hoagies, and it was just pretty crazy for like Josie Cotton and Melanie, who was on keyboards from the Muffs, to be like, "Oh my God, this is the greatest food I've ever had. This sandwich is so great." And the other two guys in the band too loved him too. And on that tour, when we made it to the East Coast, the ladies flew home from Connecticut or wherever we were, in New York or something, and we had to drive the van back to Minnesota. But of course, as we're driving back to New Jersey and getting into Pennsylvania, we're like, "You guys want to go back and get the sandwich again?"
Oh, yeah.
And then, of course, it was like completely unanimous, like, yes, we're going to get that sandwich again. So we detoured and got him again. And yeah, that's the ringing endorsement.
Wow.
That's quite an endorsement.
Yeah, for your favorite rock and roll luminaries, such as Josie Cotton and Melanie Vamman of the Muffs, enjoyed this sandwich. And for us to make to double dip and go back and get it. So wow. Joe's Pizza, I've got the menu on the fridge.
Wow.
Even though I can't order it from here. And this is a sandwich that a small is $7.75 and a large is $10. So you always get a large.
Oh my goodness, yes.
Oh, yeah.
And it's really, the ingredients are pretty standard. Lettuce, tomato, onion, oil, peppers, mayonnaise. But it's just whatever this bread, bread and provolone. Now Josh wants to counter about provolone cheese. I'm sitting there stewing about provolone cheese.
Well, for years I would never get a cheesesteak with American cheese. I always felt like American cheese was false. But I'm still a whiz guy first and foremost, and I know whiz is supposedly for tourists, but I don't care if whiz is for tourists. I'm whiz all the way, whiz wit. So whiz with onions, and that's it. Except maybe some occasions peppers. But I've never had a cheesesteak hoagie. It was always like a sin against nature to put lettuce and tomato on a cheesesteak. But I don't know. You make a good argument here.
Yeah, I'll give you the directions. I'll because now the guy that ran it has passed away and his son has taken it over. So recipe wise, nothing has changed.
Nice.
And yeah, he was like, when I worked there, he was like a little 8-year-old boy running around there. And now he's like a grown man with his own family and big staff and stuff. So it's pretty cool. So that's definitely my number one Pennsylvania food. It's ultra specific.
Hey.
Well, people, everyone say, "Oh, Philly cheesesteak," but
Gotta zero it in.
I zeroed it in.
Yeah.
Tangent, but tie-in, backtrack. Have you seen the Cinderella commercial for Pat's Steaks?
What did one of you guys mention that on the chat? Because that sounds familiar. I think you did, didn't you, Travis?
Maybe, yeah. There's going to be some good YouTube links that go along.
No, I have not seen that.
This episode for sure. Yeah, Josh, Joe's Pizza Williamsport.com.
There
if
we
you want
go.
to add that, PASnacks.com.
All right, now I'm gonna look up the Cinderella.
Watch Cinderella.
Man, I really wish we could listen to all this music and eat these foods together at the same time.
Oh man, I would be there.
Like super teas we just set up for ourselves.
Yes. That has to be when we get to the point where like Joe Rogan and we have our studio, we'll have you come in.
Or maybe, Jay, just maybe, you should buy a plane ticket and I'll buy a plane ticket and we'll go visit Josh for New Year's Day.
We can have pork and sauerkraut.
Oh, pork and sauerkraut.
And also get some of these other things too.
Oh man, I would love that.
I'm down. Whenever you're ready to go there, I will go there.
The Pennsylvania food trip.
I mean,
What?
I mean, people from their own states would probably say similar things, but I've been around the country, and I don't think that it's like that. I think there's something special. These very specific, weird, do-it-yourself kind of recipes that are, that spring up through the hills.
Yeah.
I mean, we didn't even know. No one mentioned shit on a shingle, even. But
We did not mention shit on a shingle. We did not mention scrapple.
Scrapple's a little on the nose. Everyone was probably wanting us to say Scrapple, but I would never say that Scrapple is like my favorite of something.
I like a good scrapple, but it's not every week.
Yeah.
A
Jay,
cheesesteak
Scrapple?
is every week.
I've heard of it. I don't know what it is.
Long, but we haven't touched upon Scrapple.
What about
And there's a
what's other
great Robbie.
stuff?
There's a great Robbie Folks song called Scrapple. Out of Pennsylvania.
What was that food that Danny Lodge was talking to us about? Poutine?
Yeah.
Is that
Poutine.
poutine?
That's not a Pennsylvania thing at all.
Oh, it's not. Oh,
Canadian, eh?
Yeah, it's Canadian.
Because you guys were like discussing it, like I thought maybe it was some, like, regional.
I mean, I've had attempts at it here, but
Attempts.
it's not something that's well done in Pennsylvania. So I dream of having real poutine someday.
Yeah. Guys, I really want to do the thing where we listen to all these songs and eat these foods. Not fair.
I know. Yeah, I would definitely be down for that. What's the best time of year to visit Pennsylvania? Not too hot, not too cold.
Yeah, probably right now.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, driving through that state during the fall is probably one of the greatest things you'll ever see.
I bet.
Foliage.
Yeah.
I've only seen it rivaled by Tennessee around the same time. But yeah, it's great. Route 80, even though that's a huge interstate highway, like basically you're just trucking through the woods at 80 miles an hour.
Nice.
Looks great all around, and any little side road is just like a beautiful scene where you can listen to the Cynics in your car stereo.
Have the mix playlist, the mixtape of Born Too Late, Pennsylvania.
Mm-hmm.
Listen to the Cynics.
Croce, Cynics,
chips, yep.
Cinderella.
Autumnal snacking.
Stopping for some tea-berry ice cream.
I'm not into tea-berry. Josh, Jay's like, what are you guys talking about?
One of the weird things we do in Pennsylvania is have tea-berry ice cream.
Which is basically wintergreen. Right?
Yeah.
Oh, weird.
Wintergreen. Summer can be good. Summertime fun is good in PA. But yeah, fall is definitely would be a high point. I'm seeing if I have any more albums to show that I overlooked. I didn't do. Here's a couple honorable mentions. This probably doesn't have to be recorded in the program. Mud City Manglers.
Yeah, they'd be one of my honorable mentions as well.
As well as a related band, Necrocedia, hardcore punk.
Oh, remember that?
Went on to be in a band called the Bad Genes, and one of the guys played in Mud City Manglers. Also, Submachine, a great Pittsburgh hardcore band, which I would see in the basements of State College when they would come over.
The Boyles were from there too, weren't they?
Yeah.
Were Blank 77 from there?
New Jersey.
Yeah,
New Jersey.
Neighboring state.
But I mean, the Misfits, like you'd also make a case that are practically a Pennsylvania band. Pennsylvanians would claim them as their own. And another good golden oldie right here. Lou Christie.
There we
Oh.
go. Yeah, Lou
Pittsburgh.
Christie.
A good one, yeah. Those are some honorables I thought I'd throw in there too.
Josh, you have any honorables?
So we mentioned new wave and power pop. You had the A's from Philadelphia. That was the closest thing that Philadelphia had to their own Paul Collins beat.
Yeah, I
So
suppose.
I'll give the A's honorable mention. I'll give some love to Sheermag.
Current. Good call.
The Suck, even if the alien is not a fan of the Middlesworth chips.
Okay.
Of course, Taylor Swift. Does Natalie Sweet count?
Oh yeah.
Well, does she count? Well, that album was made in Minnesota with a Norwegian. And she came here from California at the time, so I don't know. It's got the vibe, I guess. She's a Pittsburgh native, so
Yeah.
we can
If
give
Joan Jett counts.
if
Natalie
Joan
Sweet
Jett counts, Natalie Sweet. can
All
count.
right, good.
But yeah. 3 cheers for Pennsylvania, rock and roll, and snack foods,
Rock
and
and roll and
assorted food dishes.
freedom and America.
Hey man, you guys
Book-
won me over.
Book your trip now. And
Your
also,
food tour guide will be Mr. Travis Ramin.
Yes. We'll go to all 3 corners of. Well, I mean, there are 4 corners, but I'm not too familiar. Josh, are you with the Erie scene?
No,
I know that Eric Anderson of Gun Fury fame is really into Erie.
he would be able to tell us about Erie. Yes,
Yes.
he would know everything.
So you can have him on for your next Erie specific subset of this
Because
episode.
we ignored Erie in this episode.
The northwest corner of Pennsylvania did not get any mentions. Although I believe there was a great punk band from up there, My Three Scum.
Oh, really?
Do you remember them? Did you ever
No.
get a demo of My Three Scum?
No, I did not.
Okay, more YouTube links. Somehow their demo tape fell into our hands back in the day. But yeah, great name.
Yeah, no kidding. That's
I'm
funny.
gonna look it up after this and send. So, signing off.
Signing off.
Thank you so much for having me on the show. We came up with this idea long ago.
And finally made it happen.
Yes. And I only wish I had saved those snacks that I got back in the summer when we came up with this crazy idea.
Yeah, I wish I would have known about pasnacks.com.
Your whole life.
Yeah. Where's been my whole life?
I was saying to Josh earlier that pasnacks.com is going to be the new Born Too Late sponsor.
So if you're interested, we can make an arrangement.
Yeah. Just payment in tasty snacks.
So good. Well, I look forward to what even the heck our next crazy topical show could possibly be. What tops these 2 topics of PA snacks and PA rock and roll outfits?
I don't know if we can.
We will definitely find something.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, hey man, thank you so much, Travis, for spending
you,
a couple
guys.
hours on a Friday night, man. We really appreciate it. We
I
appreciate
love
you.
Born Too Late.
And yeah, man, thank you so much. We really appreciate it.
And
Very
I want-
grateful.
I want to see the comment section on this episode too.
There, yeah. Well, Spotify lets you have comments.
What
on
the
it.
hell are you guys talking about? Right.
I will never have a hog maw. Why are they wasting my time talking about this?
Yeah. Well, who knows, man. But yeah, thank you everybody for listening. if you haven't already, give us a sub, give us a review, give us a comment. We'd really appreciate it. If you want to get a hold of us, we're on Instagram. And our Gmail is borntoolatepod. Is it Born Too Late Pod or podcast?
Pod, I believe.
Yeah, borntoolatepod@gmail.com if you want to just get in touch for
Slash.
whatever reason. And other than that, for Travis and Josh and myself, Born Too Late Podcast, thanks for listening.